Welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey here with pretty much everything you need to know around the potential of an Xavien Howard trade to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, background here in case you live under a rock. Xavien Howard requested a trade last night from the Miami Dolphins amid a contract dispute with the team. We'll get into some of his quotes here in a little bit. But this is noteworthy specifically to Dallas because the Cowboys, credibly, have been linked in the past to Howard, who is coming off a career best year. The Cowboys defense is still probably not that great. The secondary is a bit of a red flag. Howard was an all-pro, the best corner in the NFL last year. Surely there's some level of interest here, right? We'll get into that. First, the reasons why Howard is trying to get out of Miami. This is what he posted on his Instagram last night, at least bits and parts of it, because I picked out the relevant stuff for the Cowboys. Everyone knows I've significantly outperformed my deal. I'm one of the best corners in the NFL, and the tape backs up that claim. The assignments I'm given, shadowing the opposition's best player with little help, proves my value, my worth. Yet, I'm the second highest paid cornerback on my own team, and it's not even close. My agent, David Cantor, and I have never once asked for a completely new contract. We wanted to work things out with the Dolphins and brought solutions to the table, like guaranteeing more money, that we felt were win-wins for both sides. These were proposals of adjustments that wouldn't just make me feel more respected, but were also cap-friendly. But the Dolphins refused everything we proposed. Now, there's one undeniable fact a part of this, even though maybe there's some bits and pieces left out, which we'll get into from Howard's perspective. He was awesome last year. The Dolphins played more man-to-man coverage than any team in the NFL last season. They routinely asked Xavien Howard and Byron Jones and others to be on an island. And as a result, Xavien Howard picked off 10 passes, had 20 pass breakups last year. Howard's right. He is one of the better corners in the NFL. So before we go more in depth on some of the claims and how it could work for the Cowboys, would you trade for Xavien Howard? A simple yes or no question to get things going here. Would you want to go and add Xavien Howard if you were the Cowboys? Get your votes in. Why for yes or and for no? Now the Cowboys have been linked to Howard in the past. Jeremy Fowler in June wrote this for ESPN. There was buzz league-wide that Dallas might make a play for Howard, though that was mostly before the Cowboys went all defense in the draft and picked up 3 new corners. He's counting Israel Mukuamu, by the way, as a corner. Albert Breer, last night, mentioned this. Howard's name was one that came up in trade talks before the draft. Dallas had been one team interested. Didn't get there then. And the combination of Howard needing a new deal and lack of cap space league-wide might make it tough for Miami to get a big return now. Stay tuned. So let's apply our rumor meter scale then here for Xavien Howard. I'm going to give it just the 1 star. Corner is still a question mark for the Cowboys. And yes, they had interest in the past. And at minimum, you can guarantee the Cowboys will be licked. Remember the playbook, folks. When you're trying to get dealt to a new team or signed to a new team, you link the Cowboys' interest. Or you find a way to leak it, even if it's not true at all. Julio Jones. And look, there are issues in a potential trade, which we're about to dive into. Although I will not rule it out, although I have interest myself, I'm giving it just the 1 star. Possible, but probably unlikely in the end. So with that in mind, predict this for me. What is the percent chance that the Dallas Cowboys go out and trade for Xavien Howard? If you're above 25%, I think you're setting yourself up for disappointment. But let me know what you guys think here in the comments section. This is the pinned comment, by the way, on today's video. So get the ad break on YouTube, scroll on down, and get your votes in. As I mentioned, there are issues here for a potential trade. 3 of them, will go in-depth on each of them, by the way. First up, the numbers game at corner. Like Jeremy Fowler mentioned, Dallas has invested in the position. Number 2 is the raw cost of a trade in terms of what it would require Dallas to give up going back to Miami. Number 3, which I think might be the least impactful of all the issues here, is the cost of a potential trade. All of those things, or of a contract, excuse me. All of those things are real problems here for the Cowboys, and we will go more in depth on them and break down how the Cowboys could still find a way to make it work in just a second. But first, If you haven't already, go subscribe to the Chat Sports YouTube channel. We'll be live Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time for the entire NBA draft. If you like basketball, if you want to know who your favorite team is going to pick, we'll have every pick broken down before the major networks do, by the way. Hit that big red button. The link right there, bottom of your screen, will be in the comment section of the description as well. It's youtube.com/chatsportstv. All right, issue number one is the numbers game going on right now at the cornerback position. Trevon Diggs, we all agree, is going to be a piece. He's going to be one of your starters. That leaves, we'll call it two, starting spots open between Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, Kelvin Joseph, and I'll throw Nashawn Wright in that conversation as well. The Cowboys spent 2 top 100 picks on corners. And the most impactful one, hopefully, is going to be Kelvin Joseph, the round 2 guy out of Kentucky. Now, the Cowboys drafted him to be an outside corner. That was their game plan. That was their goal. They want him to be a piece. You trade for Xavien Howard, well, it's Diggs and Howard on the outside. What are you doing with Kelvin Joseph? Maybe he could play nickel. His size profile fits the position. I think his feet are probably quick enough. But he hasn't played a ton in general and not a ton of nickel corner. And oh, by the way, you just paid Jordan Lewis as well. A 3-year, $13.5 million deal. He's the obvious guy set to start at the cornerback position. Now, you could find a way to move him in the future, but you save next to no money this year with the release. And you save under $1.5 million this year if traded, plus you got dead money next year. Either way, Lewis is basically a roster lock. So you've invested in Joseph and Lewis. Okay, how do you make that work? I'll make note of Nashawn Wright, who, look, I think as a late round 3 pick, the Cowboys are hoping he could become a starter, but I think more realistically, we're banking on him being the number 3 outside corner long term. Not as big of an issue, especially if you can find something to do with Kelvin Joseph and or Jordan Lewis. But again, 2 top 100 picks is a lot of investment from the Cowboys at the cornerback position. If the Cowboys hadn't drafted one or even both of those guys, this would be a very different conversation, at least from my perspective. There's also Anthony Brown. Now, I don't think anyone in the world, Cowboys, even maybe Anthony Brown's family, is going, yes, you have Anthony Brown, therefore you cannot trade for Xavien Howard. It's not how it works. But the Cowboys could start Anthony Brown week 1, and I think if you were to go out and acquire Xavien Howard, one of those guys we mentioned, Joseph, Lewis, Wright, or Brown, because of the numbers game, you got to figure out what to do with them. You're probably moving one of those guys. Anthony Brown, from a cap perspective, makes the most sense with his savings, 2.5 if cut, 4.25 million if traded. I also wanted to mention this, by the way. The hypothetical fit of Xavien Howard and Trevon Diggs. If you want to group cornerbacks into archetypes, prototypes, if you will, you've got your more true lockdown cover corners, guys that don't get beat. Yeah, not a lot of plays in the football, but they're not allowing completions or yards or anything. On the flip side, you've got guys more in the mold of Xavien Howard. I think Trevon Diggs also in that grouping. Look, 10 interceptions, 20 pass breakups. If you don't value that, you're stupid. Now, to be fair, takeaways are a bit inconsistent from year to year. And both Howard and Trevon Diggs got beat last year. They got targeted plenty. They allowed a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns for a corner. You're okay with that because of the interceptions and pass breakups. The Dolphins added Byron Jones to pair with Xavien Howard. Jones, less of a playmaker, a bit more of a, he can kind of lock down one side of the field. Diggs and Howard, folks, are both high-variance players in that Marcus Peters type of mold where, look, they're taking the ball away. I find that valuable. I am okay with that. I wonder how the Cowboys would feel about having 2 guys in that mold. But you know what? Just for myself, I would rather have 2 guys who take the ball away than 1 guy who takes the ball away and gets burned a little bit, and then other guys who don't take the ball away and also find ways to get burnt. So I'm not concerned about it, but I did want to mention that as a potential, maybe not issue, but note in terms of how they would fit in a particular scheme together. I think it's still fine in the end. Now, if you guys want to bet on football, make some money this season, do it with our sportsbook partner, BetUS. Head over to chatsports.com/bet, link right there, bottom of your screen, guys. Use promo code Cowboys125 for 125% deposit bonus. That's chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Cowboys125. You can bet on even the NFL Hall of Fame game. We'll do a watch party here, even if it's just myself involved there. Look, Steelers are a 1-point favorite, so basically even money. You can bet on the Cowboys to win. Make note, over-under, super low. That's the total points scored in the game because, well, it's the Hall of Fame game. It's going to be the backups. Get ready to see plenty of Ben DiNucci, the Nooch, in that one. If you want to bet on the preseason, the regular season, Super Bowl odds, division odds, prop bets, they got everything at BetUS. Check them out today. Chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code Cowboys125. Let's talk the trade side of it now. Trying to figure out exactly what Xavien Howard's trade value is a little bit tricky. We showed the tweet from Albert Breer. The value in terms of maximizing it is at a lower point than had he been dealt, say, before or during the NFL draft. But we've seen big-time players get dealt outside of the draft and go for a lot. How about a top-tier corner? That was Jalen Ramsey a couple years ago to the LA Rams. 2 firsts and a 4th-round pick. How about a Dolphins-specific trade? Minkah Fitzpatrick, a lot of moving pieces here. In the end, about a 1st-round pick. It ended up being a pretty early one, by the way, for Miami. Went from Pittsburgh in exchange for Minkah Fitzpatrick, a player, by the way, who the Cowboys did at least call about. They did not come close to matching that level of offer, though it was a second and some change was their offer. So here's my best guess as to what the trade value, my idea, ends up being here. Xavien Howard goes, of course, to the Dallas Cowboys, and I'll say a 1st and a 3rd. Now, I think the 1st-round pick is borderline non-negotiable for Miami in any type of trade. However, the 3rd-round pick, maybe it's a little bit more, maybe it's a little bit less, maybe a player who we'll get to here in a second, could be dealt to adjust that trade value. But in terms of trying to identify the value, I think that's what this is. Maybe I'm too high, maybe I'm too low. That's a little bit murky as we sit right now here on July 28th. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers here on YouTube because my boss has threatened me with my job if I don't, which seems very mean because I'm having a kid soon. But whatever. If you want daily Cowboys videos, hit that big red button and subscribe right now. Now, one thing that could really impact the trade value of an Xavien Howard, I think in particular, is a potential bidding war. 2 names I promise you to keep an eye out for. The Arizona Cardinals and the New Orleans Saints. I think they will be involved, fills a need, and they can find ways to make the money work fairly easily. Maybe even a Chandler Jones, Xavien Howard swap could make some sense. Watch out for Houston, by the way, specifically in a potential Deshaun Watson trade. I like the LA Chargers as a fit. The 15, I want the Falcons because, God, do they need a corner. Other teams like the Lions, the Colts, the Bills, although they don't make sense as an in-division trade, they could be a fit. The Colts and Niners, another fit, also relied on draft capital. The Seahawks are in the exact same boat. There's plenty of teams that could use Xavien Howard. They can find a way, folks, to make the money work, as we'll get into here in just a little bit. But I also wanted to mention this. I've seen, other sites throw this out there as an idea here. Maybe you move a player, which is always rare, but maybe a player makes sense for Miami. Maybe you move a Michael Gallup. Maybe an Amari Cooper since you're so deep at receiver. I've mentioned Kelvin Joseph if you're trying to find an easy way to reduce your draft pick investment and, make room in the cornerback room. You've got a lot of linebackers. Leighton Van Der Esch has way more trade value right now than Jalen Smith. Don't get tropes up there. Sorry, guys. Maybe Connor McGovern. Now, the Cowboys are really thin on the interior offensive line. That might be an issue for them, but Dolphins' O-line's not that great either. The problem with the big names here, namely the receivers and Leighton Van Der Esch, and maybe even Kelvin Joseph, it's not really a need for Miami. Remember, folks, if you're doing a trade, both sides got to say yes. If you're Miami, I genuinely don't understand why I'd be like, yes, give us a receiver back. This team has invested heavily, even maybe more so than the Cowboys have, at the receiver spot. They've paid Devontae Parker. He's a good football player. Will Fuller brought him in on a 1-year deal. He's going to start. They spent a top 10 pick on Jalen Waddle. They've got 3 good starters. Yeah, Amari Cooper, maybe Michael Gallup is better than if frankly, Cooper's better than all those guys, but you're not getting a major upgrade there in terms of what you have on the roster. Then we do other receivers. And they're so deep, too. Len Bowden, Jakeem Grant, Albert Wilson, Cowboys legend, Allen Hurns, Malcolm Bear. Like, they've got depth and talent at receiver. It's not a need. So I think that although Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup do have value and make sense in a bubble, the Dolphins' value of those players would not be that high because of what they've got at the position. Now, corner, could maybe make some sense, but again, the Dolphins kind of covered their butt here. Noah Igbinoghene was a first-round pick out of Auburn. They've paid Cowboys legend Byron Jones. They signed Jason McCourty. Nick Needham has played a bit, so I think Kelvin Joseph could make some sense, more so than receiver, but maybe it's not the best fit. Linebacker, by the way, look, they traded for Benardrick McKinney, and they've paid Jerome Baker. So, barring injury, again, linebacker's not really a huge need for this team. That's a bit of an issue there if you're the Cowboys. So what I want you guys to do right now before we head to the contract side of it here is send your best Xavien Howard trade ideas. Put them right now in the comments section. Best one only. I will say no bad trade ideas, just ones that might be a little bit less likely to get done. Now, I also want to mention here the contract side of things for Xavien Howard. First, the cap hit if traded. It's very affordable. About $12 million plus or minus, we'll call it 12 and a half or 12 and a quarter, if a team were to trade for Howard. Now, that, of course, assumes there's no new deal. However, Howard, at some capacity, is going to want a new deal. He's got 4 years left on his contract, averaging about $12.3 million. The contract, as it is, profoundly affordable. However, he's got little to no guaranteed money left. In fact, it's just his base salary this year. There's no more guaranteed money left. The Dolphins would only eat the signing bonus, $4.2 million. So the new team, in this case the Cowboys, of course, would take on the new contract basically in its entirety. And Howard would want a new deal in some capacity. Now, right now, Howard is not a top 5 highest paid corner in the NFL. When he signed his deal initially, he was the number 1 highest paid corner in the NFL. That's no longer the case. He is now almost $1.5 million less than his teammate, Byron Jones. Howard, his deal is $15.10 million per year. That's it, though. So if you're the Cowboys, yes, you can make it work short term, like with just the raw cap hits. Oh, they have to make some money and make some space available. But he would want a new deal. He'd probably get a pay raise as well. However, as I've tried to impart on you guys in the past, being able to afford a player is easy. Here's how the Cowboys can make this work. One or multiple of these deals. You can cut or trade Anthony Brown. $2.5 million if you cut him, $4.25 with a trade. You can restructure Amari Cooper. That would save you $14 million, would make it impossible to dump him next year. Same with DeMarcus Lawrence, $11 million in savings on that front. Or what you could do is restructure Xavien Howard. You can actually, even if you give him more guaranteed money, bump his base salary up. With the way his deal is currently set up, you can take his $12 million base salary, make it into a signing bonus, almost all of it, save about $4 million, and pay him $4 million this year. Yeah, it makes the contract more expensive down the road, but that's the win-win Howard wanted from Miami. It's actually very doable for the Cowboys to afford Howard based on their salary cap situation. So in the end here, never say never for a trade. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, period. But let's set the expectations correctly here. The Cowboys have not paid cornerbacks big money in recent years, ever since Brandon Carr, and even then we're talking way more money, even adjusting for a salary cap inflation. The Cowboys have not made a big-time splash move since Amari Cooper. They've been very, purse-grabbing with their salary cap situation. Yeah, Jerry likes to make a splash, but they invested a lot in corner. So I don't think it's likely, and I want to make sure that's clear, because what I don't want you guys to do is say, it's going to happen, and then be disappointed when it does not go down, if, of course, that's what happens, and we'll find out in the near future here on the Cowboys Report.